how many this is over the years. But I'm Steve Santarsiero, your state senator, and I'm joined by my friend and colleague in the State House, Tim Brennan, and I'm going to let Tim introduce himself in just a moment. But I just wanted to say how grateful we are to have our panelists, who I'm going to introduce in a minute, and all of you here tonight. This is something that I began years ago, 2009, when, like Tim, I was in the State House, but I was representing the Yardley-Newtown area where I live. And when I got elected to the State Senate, we decided to include this. And when Tim came on board in 2022, we roped him into it too, and he's been a happy participant in a program that I think is very worthwhile. I know there will be other people coming in the course of the evening, but we are respectful of your time, so we wanted to start off right away. Before I introduce our panelists, I just want to get a sense of the room. How many of you right now have high school students? Okay, so that's everybody. Just about everybody, I think, right? How many are ninth graders? Okay. How many, and by the way, Shannon Sticker, my deputy chief of staff over there, she's cheating. Her daughter goes to CB East, so, and your son as well. And how many of you have sophomores? Okay, juniors? Seniors? Okay, and sir, how, what age? Middle school. Okay, awesome, great. Okay, great. Well, that's great. This is intended for everyone, whether your kids are, whether you don't have kids yet, whether you have kids in the elementary level, whether you have kids in high school, as many of you do, whether you are grandparents with grandchildren that you want to try to help out with the cost of higher education. So it runs the gamut, and it's hopefully something you'll get something out of this presentation tonight. So with that, let me introduce our panelists, and two of them are veterans who've been with us, I think, from the start, and one is new to us tonight, and we're happy to welcome him. Let me begin with Fran McEwen. Fran joins us this evening from Pennsylvania's Higher Education Assistance Agency, or FEA. Fran is a veteran of College Prep Night, as I just said, and has worked in financial aid for more than 40 years. Fran has served as a higher education access partner with FEA for just over 20 years. Prior to joining FEA, Fran served as the Director of Financial Aid at Bucks County Community College for 20 years. Fran, once again, we're very grateful to have you here tonight.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks. Another College Prep Night alumna is Francine Block. Francine is the president of the American College Admissions Consultants. She comes to us with more than 25 years experience in college admissions and education. Francine is highly regarded for her expertise on college admissions and how to find the right fit for your student, and she has contributed to books and other publications on the topic. Francine, once again, thank you for being here. And as I said, the new guy on the block, we're very grateful to have him tonight, is Azaz Gill. Azaz is a regional program relationship manager for the Pennsylvania Treasury. He's here today to explain Pennsylvania's 529 College and Career Savings Program and the Keystone Scholar Program as well. Azaz, thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. So a few housekeeping matters before we begin tonight. First of all, this is being live streamed, and it will be on both my website and Facebook page as well as Tim's. So if you're watching this from home, welcome. For those people who are not able to either be here tonight or watch it this evening, they'll be able to get a recorded version of it later on. The way this is going to work is as follows, and we've done different formats over the years, but we've found in the last few years this has worked the best. Tim and I are going to pose questions to our panelists, and they will answer those questions. If you have a particular question on the topic we've discussed, feel free to ask at that time. When we are done with all of our questions, we will open up the floor to any questions you have for the panelists as well, okay? If that makes sense to everyone, that's the way we're going to proceed. But before we start with the questions and turn to the panelists, I want to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Tim Brennan, to say hello.
Yeah, it is a pleasure to be here again. Senator Santarsiero has put this program together, and it's been a pleasure attending here. Like many of you, I've come through this thing a few times, and I've actually applied some of the things that I've learned in this forum to my own son. So it is informative, it is useful. You will pick up tidbits today that help guide your children. And it's really a useful forum. So appreciate the Senator putting this on and inviting me here to be a part of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. Okay, with that, let's get underway. The first question is going to be for Fran. Fran, yes. What forms need to be completed to be considered for financial aid, and when does a student need to file?
Okay, so the main form that you'll have to complete is called the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, and you file that the October 1st of your senior year for the next year. That form is used to determine if you're eligible for federal aid, state aid, and a lot of schools use that to determine your eligibility for their need-based programs. Some schools may ask for an additional application. Some of you may have heard of the CSS profile, that some schools ask for that. You want to make sure that your school is requiring that, because there is a cost associated with that unless you're eligible for the waiver. So just when you're applying to colleges, look to see, is FAFSA all they need? And also take note of the deadline, because every school has their own deadline. Or do they have the FAFSA and the CSS profile? Because you want to make sure you're considered for all types of aid.
Great. Are there any questions on any of that? Tim.
All right. Our second question is for Francine. Is it cheaper to attend a public state school? Is it cheaper to do a private school?
That's a really frequently asked question and a frequent misconception. Families assume if I go to Westchester or Penn State, it's going to cost me less than if I go to Lafayette, Muhlenberg, Lehigh. Don't make that assumption. State schools are beholden to the FAFSA, or sometimes the state schools will use the CSS profile, but they're all going to use the FAFSA. And they can't deviate from the money they give out according to the way the government forms are. A private school has much more private money, usually known as merit aid, that they can choose to give. And it could be a school that gives C students merit money. You're going, really? Not everybody is an A-B student. And yes, the A-B students do get merit money, but in reality, if they're going to want to go to Penn or to Swarthmore, those high-level schools don't usually give merit money. They give financial aid only. So being able to look at a private school that may give merit aid, locally, Gettysburg, Dickinson, Muhlenberg, Franklin and Marshall, all of those schools give a ton of merit aid. And many, if they really want your son or daughter, will do their best to try and give as much as possible to make it equal to if you were going to a state school. So the answer is no. Don't assume it's going to be less expensive to go to a state school. Now, I always tell families, always have what we call a financial backup. So your child might have seen private schools that they like. You don't know how much money they're going to give you. So always have an affordable school in their list of where they are applying.
All right, any questions? All right. Next question is for Fran. What is the studentaid.gov account? Are there specific deadlines when students apply for financial aid?
Okay, so I mentioned the FAFSA that has to be completed. So prior to starting the FAFSA, both the student and the parent that's contributing information to the FAFSA have to apply for a studentaid.gov account. both to get to the spot where you create the studentaid.gov account, you go on the studentaid.gov website, which is the federal website. That's the same website you're going to be completing the FAFSA on. But this studentaid.gov account, you create it takes about 5 minutes, and what that is that's going to be used as your electronic signature on the FAFSA. So again, it's the student and the parent contributor. Are there deadlines? Like I said, the FAFSA, every school is going to have a different deadline. So you want to make sure, what I always tell families is list the schools you're planning to apply to, list the financial aid deadline, and circle the earliest one so that you get the FAFSA in on time for all of those schools. You can always add schools later on if your student decides, oh, I put 5 down, but I have a 6th. And you can actually put up to 20 schools on the FAFSA, and they'll all receive that information. We at FIA also receive the information from the FAFSA to determine a student's eligibility for state grant. And the deadline for state grant for most students is May 1st. So if you're a senior right now, May 1st is your deadline for 26-27. In some cases, if a student decides, they're a first-time student, they decide to go to a community college or an open admission school, or there's a couple others, they have an August 1st deadline date. But that's only the first year, so kind of keep May 1st in the back of your mind so you don't miss anything.
Are there any questions about that? Okay. And again, at the end, if you have questions occur to you, save those for then as well. Okay, the next, I'm going to go back to Francine. Francine, what does test optional mean? And I know there has been a lot of change in the last just 5 or 6 years, including during the pandemic. So if you could tell us where things are with test optional and test blind and all those things.
Test optional means that the college is making its decision whether to admit your child, not requiring test scores. And there have been schools for 35 years at this point, some highly selective schools that have not used test scores forever. Their feeling is that when your child applies, the 3 years of high school academic record is more telling than 3 hours sitting in a test center. So test optional means the school does not require test scores. When the pandemic came, schools were closed. There was no place for students to take an SAT or an ACT, and the colleges had to pivot and say, we still want applications. What are we going to do? I guess we're going to go test optional. Most of the schools found that the results that they were getting of the students they were admitting without test scores were doing equally as well in their first year as when they required them to submit test scores. So many schools are still test optional. If you have a child that wants to get away from our brutal winter that we had this year and says, I'm going to California, none of the University of California or Cal State schools require test scores, whether you're in state or out of state. You always have to check, and I was sitting here trying to scramble in my mind and I can't remember. Just yesterday I was reading, and it might have been the University of Wisconsin, who is still test optional through the 27-28 cycle. A lot of schools are still running pilot programs and tests to see how kids did. There are some schools that have gone back. MIT went back to requiring test scores. Some of the Ivies have, not all of them. Caltech, equivalent, if not better than MIT, does not require them right now. So your child needs to see where they're thinking about school, and the test requirement for a year or 2 years out is always posted on their website. So test optional, not everybody tests well, and the colleges realized they were sometimes getting students who tested very well, but these were students whose families could afford to pay for a lot of testing over and over and over and all, and they felt that wasn't fair to those who didn't have those resources. So test optional is out there, very real. It has nothing to do with the quality of the school. Penn State and Pitt are both test optional.
And test blind?
Test blind is actually what California is. You could send them to the California schools and they never see them. They never look at them. That one caught me. I don't think I've been asked that one before. But the test blind means it doesn't matter if you submit it. For colleges who are test optional, many of them will look at test scores if you send them. So that's the difference. I'm test optional. I don't need to supply you with scores, but gosh, I did really well. Why wouldn't I want to tell you? What you need to do with that is those numbers, especially since the pandemic, have changed dramatically. If you were applying to school where 1450 was a great score previously and you wanted to submit them, applying to that same competitive college now, their average scores could be 1520. Because only students with high numbers submit, it makes the numbers all go up. So before your child who has an excellent 1450 chooses to submit, you have to go on the website of the college and see what their average scores are. And if it is a university that has multiple, an engineering college, arts and science, agriculture, each college will list what their incoming average scores were. So your child may submit them for some schools and not for others. Catch me off guard there, Sarah.
It wasn't intentional, I swear. But the truth of that is, too, that there's a numbers game going on, right? And the schools like to be able to publish that their average score is way up here. And if your student did very well and got like a 1450, which, by the way, when I was a kid, I don't know about you guys, but 1450 was like through the roof. And you submitted that, and it's a great score, but it tends to bring their average down, that's not a good thing. So you got, Francine, you're absolutely right. You got to think very carefully about that. Thank you. Okay, next, it comes back to Fran. Fran, the question is, what information is needed to complete the FAFSA? Do I need to include investment and asset information?
Okay, so for the FAFSA, you'll need, it's called the prior year tax return. So for the year, for example, 26-27 coming up, when families filed the FAFSA, they had to use their 2024 tax return. So, and then it goes up a year, next year it'll be 2025. So that's the income tax information, and that's brought over automatically. When you're in the FAFSA, you consent to having your information pulled over from the IRS, which makes the FAFSA a lot simpler because everything's populated for you. You will also, in some cases, you'll need your asset and investment information. The FAFSA has something called skip logic built into it. So as it's asking you questions, it says, do we really need, from what we know, do we need to ask income information? Is it going to make any difference? If the answer is no, they won't ask the family to submit that. If the answer is yes, you as the parent will have to submit if you have any investments, if you have 529s, stocks, bonds, all those kinds of things. The things you won't list are the value of your primary home, any of your qualified retirement accounts, insurance policies, and if you do have 529s, you're only listing the 529 for that student that you're completing the FAFSA. And child support is also considered an asset, so you would report that. So they're the kinds of things. And it walks you through that on the FAFSA. I always tell people that are filling out the FAFSA, there's next to some of the line items on the FAFSA, there's an I for information with a circle around it. I always say when you get to the asset section, click on that because it will tell you, here's the assets you report, here's the assets you don't report. Because you don't want to report something that you don't need to, like the value of your primary home. Now, if you have a shore house, they're asking for that. So.
And this is a question for Francine. I can tell you I have my notes from last year, and this is a helpful thing to hear. What are colleges looking for when they're reading a student's application?
The very first thing is all the parents go, all the parents go, my child is well-rounded. Yeah, they're looking for pointy students. They're not looking for the well-rounded kid anymore. It used to be the same way the senator said 1450 used to be a good score and it used to be a top-notch score. They want it well-rounded. Now they're looking for pointy, i.e., if your child has an interest in caterpillars and butterflies, they want to know what they've done to develop that interest. Where are they with it? What are they doing with it? If they're in a sport, They want to see what else they're involved in, because the chances of them playing that sport in college, probably nobody sitting here has a D1 potential athlete. So anybody else whose child is on the traveling soccer team, the lacrosse team, the whatever, they may play D3. Any student can walk onto a D3 sports school. D1, you need to be recruited, and D2, it's a mixture of both. But what happens is that when they're looking at an application, the first thing they look at is the transcript. If the transcript doesn't pass muster, they don't read that the child was president of the class, went to Hugh O'Brien camp. They never get to that. The first thing they look at is the transcript. Then they look, has this child challenged himself? Challenged himself. As I just walked in, I saw that the school is set up. Tomorrow's May 1 and starting all the May activities on school, and the first thing that hit my eye were AP, advanced placement. Well, advanced placement, if that's where you belong. Taking an advanced placement class when you don't belong there. If you like math and science, take your AP classes in those. If English and social studies are not your strong suits, don't take an honors level class in that. Don't take the AP. So how strong is the academic record, and did this child challenge themselves? You heard me say a few minutes ago that there are schools that give money to C students, and there are plenty. The majority of colleges in this country are for C students, but of course the press only writes about the A and B colleges, right? But if your child shouldn't be in the advanced courses, what are they doing to challenge themselves? Did they try one honors class in something that interested them, not 5 APs where they're going to flail and fail? So academics are the very first thing. The next thing will be extracurricular, and they don't look for a million extracurricular. They want to see a consistency across the board. They also look, some children, in order to help support the insurance for their car or help their family, they all have to work. Nothing wrong with working. If a school sees that a child needed to work and is working 20, 30 hours a week, they will never be penalized for not being in extracurricular activities at school. The colleges all take that into effect. And then they look for community service. What have you done to help others? Are you volunteering at the hospital? Are you a scout? They love Eagle Scouts and the girls with the gold bar and all that. Those kids literally get grabbed off the top. They have to meet other qualifications. But when you've got two kids that are equal, that Eagle Scout is going to take it over a kid that sat around playing video games. Now that kid could eventually become a gamer and make more money than any of us. But that's not what the colleges are looking at. Did I answer it correctly?
Yeah.
All right, Azaz, we're finally getting to you. I'm sorry it took this long into the program, but it's a pretty important question, obviously, and that is, what is the PA 529 College and Career Savings Program?
So since you made me wait, I'm going to wait to answer your question, actually. I'm going to ask a question of this audience here. How many of you already have PA 529 accounts? See, we got a couple. I knew the folks in Bucks County would be very, very smart. So I'm proud of you guys. For those of you who don't know, allow me to indulge for a second. So PA 529 are a savings program administered by the Pennsylvania Treasury that offers families the ability to steadily and strategically save. It's flexible and offers tax advantages with funds to improve the lives of generations of Pennsylvanians. We have two different programs. We have the Guaranteed Savings Plan, and we have the Investment Savings Plan as well. Now, just so you know, there's over 337,000 Pennsylvanians who are already taking advantage of that. Our assets number over $10 billion. We just passed it last week. $10 billion worth of assets in Pennsylvania's 529 accounts. So it's a great way to save for education. And even though it says PA 529 College and Career Savings Program, I do want to point out, you can actually use PA 529 for K-12 education as well. And I always like to point that out because I am a proud product of parochial schools of Philadelphia, Father Judge High School, for those of you who are familiar with that. So it would have really behooved my own family if they were aware that, they could have used a PA 529 during my high school years. So I always wanted to make sure that I point that out. And there's obviously some tax advantages as well. So you can use PA 529 funds for tuition, fees, room and board, books, computers, even credentialing programs. And the tax incentives are that you can deduct up to $19,000 per beneficiary and $38,000 per married couple as well with PA 529. So.
And just to be clear, too, under the tax code, this educational purpose, which defines ultimately what you could use for, is pretty broad, correct?
Yes, a lot of expenses. I mean, I just gave you a couple of examples,
Right.
but that list can be very extensive.
Yeah, and it could include vocational school, a lot of other things that it's for an educational purpose.
Credentialing,
Right.
trade schools, all sorts of different things.
Let-
Siblings, you want to talk about siblings? That the money can go.
Yeah, well, I think that we get to the question later.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other question, though, I wanted to follow up because I don't know that it's on our list here. You mentioned the two different types of programs. When I hear the word guarantee, and I'm sure a lot of people hear that word guarantee, immediately you think, oh, does that mean the money that I put in there it's backed up by the Pennsylvania Treasury, it's going to be guaranteed in case the funds lose money? What's the...
So, sort of. So, guaranteed savings plan, this is the way best way to explain it. You are essentially locking in tuition rates at today's cost for tomorrow's credits, if that makes sense. So, there are various levels you can save at. So, you can save at community college level, you can save at a 4-year private college level, you could save up at an Ivy League level as well. So what you're doing with the guaranteed savings plan is you're basically buying credits today for, even though your kid might not go to college in I don't know, until 2040. So that's a good way to explain the guaranteed savings plan. The investment plan is a little bit more. It's a little more, if you are the type of person who likes to invest their money, you can certainly go that route as well. Although, so that's the difference between the guaranteed and investment plans.
Right, and so the calculus really is, when you're thinking between the two, is the likely inflation related to the tuition, to the credits, going to be higher than what you think you could get in return on the investments? And depending upon how you answer that question and what your risk level is and how you feel about that, dictates which of those two programs at the end of the day you think makes the most sense. Thank you.
There's actually more. The total number is over 337,000. More people have investment plan than guaranteed savings plan.
Any questions on that before Tim poses the next question? Okay, thank you. Okay.
All right. Also for Azaz, does having a PA 529 account affect the beneficiary's eligibility for post-secondary education financial aid?
It does not. PA 529 assets are not counted against any sort of Pennsylvania state financial aid, so PA grants or anything along those lines, which is, of course, a unique advantage of having a PA 529 plan instead of having an out-of-state PA 529 plan. There is a slight impact with for federal aid, but it's minimal. But when it comes to Pennsylvania, there is none.
Great. All right, and this is for Fran. How will my student be notified of their eligibility for financial aid, and when does the student receive this information?
Okay, so every school has their timeline when they send out their award packages, as they refer to them. So kind of depends. Some, if you're a senior and you filled out your FAFSA October 1st, you might have heard something before Christmas, or maybe January, February. They try to get the awards out by, at the latest, maybe March, because they want you to have all your awards from the different schools to be able to compare them and decide, what makes the most sense for your family so that you can make your decision by May 1st. And how they notify you is most of them don't really send it via mail anymore. They usually have a portal that the student can get access to so that they can see, they'll email them or text them and say, go into your portal and see what you've been awarded. And you can see what type of financial aid. And it'll list everything the student's eligible for at that school: grants, loans, maybe federal work study. and then how the student has to accept or reject all those types of aid. So I know a couple people said they were seniors, so you may have I'm sure you've heard back from some of your schools what you're being awarded and making those decisions right now.
Great, thank you, Fran. Next one is for Francine. Francine, given what you said before about the importance of grades, the question is, if a student's GPA is within the average for a college, can one just assume that the student will be accepted at that college?
Absolutely not. If you heard nothing else tonight, hopefully you heard that. The majority of students, if they've done their homework and haven't listened to what mom and dad want for a sticker on the back of the car, and instead have applied appropriately, chances are they have a good shot of being accepted to a school because they're applying where they academically qualify. The problem is the colleges don't have room for all of them. So your child may totally qualify with everything I talked about a few minutes ago, but there's not room. When any of the Ivies report in late May to their board of trustees, they always report on the class. We have so many states represented, so many countries. We have an inventor of this. We have somebody who has a patent, yada, yada, yada. And they will say, and these students, we accepted 3.5 of every 100 who applied. Yet, we could have gone as deep as 73.5, and they all academically qualified. It was making decisions based on how challenging the classes were, what the student has done outside of the classroom, et cetera. So just, and it is a misconception that because my kid has all A's and this is an A school, they're going to get in. You heard me say a few minutes ago, you need financial backups, or I said that to somebody, it's something I may not have said it in front of everybody, but we were talking earlier. You also need academic backups for schools. If a student can't go to school without merit money, don't apply to all schools that are at their level or a little above. Remember, the ones above may not, if they accept the child, give any merit money. So you always want to have schools that may be a little bit lower than where academically you think they belong. That's where they're going to get more merit money. Not the need-based money, but more merit money. So just looking at grades or my student has the test scores that they like, no, it's a sad thing to report, but it is the way it works.
All right. This is for Azaz. Does a 529 account have to be used at a Pennsylvania school?
It does not. You are not locked into Pennsylvania, although I think the state would very much like to keep you here. You are not locked in into Pennsylvania. The account travels with your child wherever they choose to go, as long as FAFSA is accepted. And funds can, of course, not just colleges, they can be eligible, as we talked about earlier, at colleges, technical schools, and certified apprenticeship programs, and credentialing nationwide as well.
Going back to Francine. Francine, why does the level of a course a student takes in college matter to a college? You touched on this a little bit before, but if you can amplify that, that'd be great.
A course they took in high school.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason it matters is the colleges are trying to see, can you do the higher level classes? You're trying to come into our school, which looks like it might be academically a little bit above you, yet you took all of these really tough courses and you did very well. So we see that you can challenge yourself and you'll be fine. So that's why the courses that a student took, and again, if you're a B student, you shouldn't have all AP classes, maybe one to see what happens, but colleges want to know, colleges are accepting you so you can succeed. They don't want to accept you if you've just gotten in, and a student sometimes gets in at the bottom of the class off a wait list or something. We always say, do you want to go to a school that took other kids before you who chose not to go to that school, and now they've come to you? How hard do you want to work in college, and are you going to need to struggle? If you're thinking about med school or law school or vet school, I always tell my families, you don't go to the best school you get into, You go where you can have the highest GPA to then get into that grad program. Because if you go to Penn, opening convocation at Penn, they will say, how many of you were number one in your class? Lots of hands go up. You all can't graduate from Penn being number one, thinking that's going to get you into the next graduate level. So you need to think and strategize for some of this.
All right. Going back to Azaz, what are some of the new aspects of the PA 529 plan?
I'm glad you asked. We have a couple new exciting things. First, for the third year in a row, our PA 529 investment plan was rated gold by Morningstar. Treasury was very adamant that I mentioned that, so now that I've gotten that out of the way, we have some other new things as well. So one of the big changes I talked about, the K-12 education. So it used to be you could spend $10,000 per child in K-12 education. That number has now risen to $20,000 a year. That's due to some federal legislation, but you can spend $20,000 a year on a child on any sort of the expenses we talked about earlier: tuition, books, computers, all that kind of stuff. So it went from 10 to 20, and that's per child. So if you have a couple kids and you can afford it, you can spend $20,000 in each one of them. St. Joe's is always looking for people like that, I think. And then there's another one I wanted to mention as well. So we have a partnership with something called Gift of College. So family and friends can now purchase a gift card to securely contribute to a PA 529 account for a special occasion. So if I don't know if there's any grandparents or anything like that in the room, but if you're a grandparent and you want to give your child the gift of education instead of buying them a new video game or something along those lines, you can now purchase a gift card. They might not appreciate it now, but trust me, in 10, 20 years, they will appreciate that gift of education a lot more than the PS5 or PS6. I don't know which one we're up to, but you get the gist. But those are some of the new stuff we have going on with the PA 529s.
Thank you, Azaz. Great. We're going to move on now to Fran. Fran, what if my student does not receive enough financial aid to cover their education expenses? What other options are open to the family?
Okay, so once the family receives the package from the school, if there's a gap between what the school costs and what the student owes, they can borrow. So normally every financial aid package will tell the student they're eligible for the $5,500 federal student loan. So they can all get that no matter what their financial need is. But a student or a parent can borrow what's called a federal Parent Plus loan. And the rules are actually changing on that effective July 1st. So a parent can borrow up to $20,000 maximum per year for that student under the Plus loan, but only a maximum of $65,000 over 4 years. So I just mentioned that because if they borrow the $20,000 freshman, $20,000 sophomore, $20,000 junior, they really only have $5,000 left in the senior year. So just want to make sure people realize that. And the Federal Plus loan is in the student's or in the parent's name, but they're taking it out on the student's behalf to pay for their costs. There is a real lenient credit check attached to that. There's also private education loans that sometimes I usually tell families, compare the Plus to the private loans, because the Plus loan right now for this year is 8.94% interest, and there's a 4.228% origination fee that comes off the top. Some of the private loans, because they go through the full credit check, the private loans, if you're eligible for that and you have good credit and pick a certain repayment plan, sometimes you get a lesser interest rate and they don't charge the origination fee. So just kind of compare those two. And the private loans, not that I'm pushing them, I'm just saying compare, but if you can borrow whatever the cost of attendance is for that student minus the financial aid they receive. So you'd be able to borrow more than the Plus. 529s, you can use them towards the gap, any savings you have. So they're the types of things. Some people choose to use a home equity. I'm not a financial planner, so you can look into that. But they're the types of things that you would use to fill that gap.
Let me just say about the home equity. My contracts professor in law school always used to say this: do not bet the family farm. When you take out a home equity loan, you're giving someone a security interest in your house. So just remember that. That was Elizabeth Warren, by the way. So she was very adamant about that.
And if anybody watches Shark Tank, they always groan when somebody who's trying to get money from the sharks will say that they've put up their house and everything else. Now I need to remember something you said. Now I totally lost it. Okay, it may come back. But, oh, I know. There are some private colleges that also do loan families money at good rates. There aren't many, but there are some. So depending where your child goes, when you're visiting campus for the first time, you can ask, does the school have a loan plan for the students who go there?
One more thing, a lot of schools have a payment plan as well, because sometimes you can pay it over the 10 months the student's in school, but you just don't have it to pay. Like, you usually pay half in August and half in December if you're going to a 2-semester school, and sometimes you just don't have that lump sum, but they'll let you sign up for a payment plan.
Since we're talking about additional ways to find money, I feel obligated to point out that we have unclaimed property. For those of you who are not familiar with it, there's over $5 billion worth of unclaimed property in the state of Pennsylvania. 1 in every 10 Pennsylvanian has some, and the average claim is $1,000. If you haven't already checked for that, you can go online, type PA unclaimed property into Google, and search your name and see if there's any additional money that might be helpful to you while you're searching for money in college. I just had a colleague who found over $300,000 in Erie for somebody. So you never know what's out there. It's money that's Treasury is merely custodians of. We're holding it on for you, so make sure you go claim it.
All right. Coming back to Francine. Are there any worthwhile programs for students to become involved with that will help them get accepted to college?
I hate the word helping get accepted, but makes their application looked upon more favorably. I do recommend that students definitely between senior year, and if possible between sophomore, junior year, do a summer program that may relate to what they want to major in. They could do a couple weeks interning for either of these fine gentlemen, and I'm sure each of them has, I'm getting a shake of the head back there, probably from one of your employees, no. Yeah. There are all kinds of programs set up, as in Washington. They can intern in Washington for political science. They can intern locally at a local office. They don't have to go live in Harrisburg. So there are good programs that do not cost a parent anything that a child can do for a week or two, and often they come up with fascinating stories to write about for their essays. One of the great programs we have in Pennsylvania, and one of the best buys, is called PFEW, Pennsylvania Free Enterprise Week. And if you have a child interested in business, economics, finance, it's a 1-week program, and there are multiple weeks that they do it throughout the summer. It's held out in Williamsport, where the Little League Hall of Fame and the games are. And it's a very inexpensive program for the families, really inexpensive to the point that I would say cheap, because the program is funded by, I have funded a scholarship for years and years. I don't get to pick my student. I just request that they pick somebody from Bucks County. But corporations across the state, the Commonwealth, put money in to help pay for this. There aren't many states that have a program like that, but we do, and it's excellent. And sometimes your student will come home and go, I never want to do business. Perfect. That was a week well spent and a couple $100 by you, because they're not applying to college because they want to do business because you said you have to go into business. So they learn a lot, or they can come home, I'm in love with finance. I didn't know what it was before I went, but now I love it. So there are certain programs that are really good to help them investigate. Do they want to be a journalist? Call one of the local papers that's still alive and flourishing. Can they go in and file papers or do something there? You know, there are inexpensive programs around that a student can investigate that will help them. I mentioned Boy Scouts, church or synagogue related activities, things like that, that don't cost you money, but usually the students get involved with community service or other things like that. And these are programs that are really good, and I'm going to save the bad ones because I think that's my next question.
Yeah, that's the next question. And the PFEW program, it looks fabulous. I've already looked at the dates, and I have one coming for between junior and senior year. It's really worth looking at. So what type of programs should students and families avoid?
These are called pay to play. And if you've got the money, you can send your child. There's no qualifications. The kids don't really have to write an essay. And you've got the money to send them to these programs. And I will tell you, some of them are fascinating. They're often held on college campuses. So a parent thinks, wow, Brown's got this program in microbiology. My child wants to go to Brown. I'm going to look at this program. What you need to know is the space on the Brown campus has been rented out to a private company that often will hire Brown faculty, but is paying for the food for your child, paying for the dorm. Getting into the program has nothing to do with getting into Brown. I had a student many years ago who was pre-med, and he did one of these programs. He did really well. The Brown faculty professor wrote a letter for him. He didn't get into Brown, but he did get into Harvard. Okay? So the programs, the colleges don't like to disenfranchise those who cannot afford fancy, expensive programs. That's why they're called pay to play and stay away. Now, I will tell you, some of them are excellent. Washington, D.C. has quite a few. A private group down there does it. They've got a law one. They've got a journalism one. They've got them all over. They rent college space all over. These are really good programs. The kids love it, and they do learn a lot. But I say to my students, go get something out of it you might write about, but it might not be something you're going to put down on your list of activities that you've done because it's a pay to play and it will be disregarded. Yet if you can write about what you learned, that's a different situation.
Thank you, Francine. Moving right along, back to Azaz. Okay. I get a 529, I save, but then my child decides not to pursue higher education.
He's too busy gallivanting around Europe, is that it?
Well, I don't know about that. It could be any number of things, but what happens then? What can I do?
You have a couple options at that point. So first off, the money doesn't disappear; it stays there. You can change it. So as Francine pointed out earlier, you can change the beneficiary to another family member, perhaps another sibling, a cousin, or yourself. It's never too late for you to learn, right? You could change it change a 529 to a Roth IRA rollover, and you can do that up to $35,000, provided the account has been opened for up to 15 years. If you do take out a non-qualified withdrawal, you can take the money out, but the earnings are subject to income tax and a 10% federal penalty. Contributions come back penalty-free. The penalty is on the growth in the account. And there's no age limit on it either. Assets can be used later on in life for adult career training, credential programs, or any sort of part-time programs as well. So if your child decides not to pursue higher education, there's some options there for you.
One more for Zaz. What is a Keystone Scholar?
Keystone Scholars is one of my favorite programs. So Keystone Scholar is basically Pennsylvania giving a $100 scholarship to every child born in the state of Pennsylvania in 2019 or after. Treasury invests $100, which then grows alongside that child and can be used after their 18th birthday for qualifying for post high school expenses, college, trade school, apprenticeships, and credentialing programs. And research has shown that children with even a modest education savings account are 3 times more likely to attend college and 4 times more likely to graduate. That was sort of the impetus for beginning Keystone Scholars Program. Families can claim those accounts at pa529.com/Keystone. And just so you know, there's over 895,000 accounts which have been created with more than $95 million in assets. And nearly 12% of those accounts have been claimed with more than $216 million, which has been saved and linked to PA529 accounts. So it's a wonderful program. If you know somebody who's had a child in 2019 or after, go tell them about it. It's a $100 scholarship they're getting from the state.
Great, thank you. Francine, back to you. This is a question we would not have asked 5 years ago. We certainly wouldn't have asked it back in 2009. Should my student use AI to write their essay? Can colleges tell what is written with AI?
No and yes. Am I done?
I think that's it.
They shouldn't use AI to write their essay. If they're having problems and have thoughts and know where they might want to go but don't know how to get organized or whatever, they can put comments and thoughts into AI, see what comes back, take the organizational thoughts, and then go with it on their own. Colleges can absolutely tell what's written. I can tell when I read a student's essay written by AI. It isn't usually my students because I've read them the riot act about using it, but when I read scholarships and all, I can tell. And what happens is that the colleges, there's no personality to them. If any of you use AI at work, you might use it to set up, I need to plan a board meeting. Can you put this in order for me? Those things are great for AI, but if I ask them to write my retirement speech from the board, it's flat, it's not me, it doesn't have personality. And that's the same thing that happens with essays written by AI. And it may sound strange, but a kid wants to go to med school. I want to go to med school, I loved AP Bio, I want to help people, and they put in the normal common denominators. And 10,000 other kids across the country put those same comments in. Same essay will come out. A college could be reading the same essay by 3 different students who don't even know each other because the same stuff's been put into AI. So it's lack of personality, it's flatness to it. It can be used if they have to start to get the ball rolling. Colleges also pay for programs where they can feed the essay in, and AI will tell them whether it was an AI-generated essay or it was written by the student.
Great, thank you. And of course, that's going to be evolving over time too. So we'll be back at this next year with that question once again. Last question I have for you, Francine, is this, and it wasn't one of the ones that we had worked out ahead of time. Do most schools assign admissions officers territories? And if so, is it worth trying to get to know that person and connect with them?
Absolutely. If you go to a college's website, they will have the territory for each of their admissions staff, and they're called admissions reps. And you may see that somebody has Pennsylvania, but they also have Alaska, Montana, and Idaho. So they try and mix up what has a state with lots of students with states that don't have so many students applying. That person will be the first one to read your application. So I say absolutely get them to know you. Ask them questions. When will you be on campus? Here's where I'm visiting. Might you be on campus then? Many of the regional reps now, we have a lot who live in the Philadelphia area. Southeast Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey has actually a core group from Alabama, from California schools, from all over, and they all live here. This is their territory, this is where they travel, etc. And your child may have a chance to meet them. I have students write, are you doing interviews when you're here? I see you're visiting my high school. I'd love to have a chance to talk with you. And usually they're running from high school to high school and it won't happen. It's not the point. You've gotten your name in front of them. So many schools have regional reps that live in wherever the school is, but travel all over. And then a lot do have them right in our area. At one point I was talking to the University of Alabama's rep, and she was telling me they were having a send-off in August for the students from our area in southern Jersey who are going to go down to Alabama. There were 600 students from this area alone going. They are one of the schools that have a rapid turnaround in applications, and they give a lot of out-of-state money. Many state schools do not give out-of-state students money. Alabama is one of now several that actually do. So yes, get to know your regional rep. They can only help you, and you might honestly have a question. Can you give me the name of an economics professor that'll be around this summer? I'd love to have a chance and stop in and hear about the different type of economics I could major in when I'm on campus. So they will pay attention, but do not hound them. Do not be after them all the time. use your connection to them appropriately, because if you're bothering them all the time, your application may be the first one they read, but it may be the first one they put on the no pile too. And what happens is that person is not the one making the decision on you. They are the first reader, and then at least one other reader on campus will be reading the app as well.
Great. Well, incredibly important, though, to know that's the first reader and to make that connection. Fran, I have one last question I'm going to add on as well. A few years ago, we were here, and I guess they had just changed the form, right? The FAFSA form, and there were all kinds of delays. Where are we now with the process?
Okay, so for 24-25, they simplified the FAFSA, and that year there was a lot of issues. Some people couldn't file, had to do it by paper. It's come a long way. It's so much better. It's a lot simpler. I do a lot of FAFSA completion nights in person. We had a lot scheduled this year. A lot of people didn't show up because they tried it at home and it was so easy they didn't need to come get help. And they're even making some more enhancements this year, so it's much better.
And those new enhancements have rolled out successfully so far. That hasn't been an issue. Okay,
Yes.
yeah, that was quite a problem a couple of years ago. All right. Well, those are the questions that Tim and I have to pose. Now to open it up to the audience. If you have additional questions, either things that were not covered on these topics or anything you might have as a consequence of what you've heard from our panelists tonight. Yes. And Beth, my assistant, has a microphone, so.
Could you explain if a student applies early decision and then the financial aid package doesn't meet, what they can afford? Can they withdraw from that early decision? How does that work?
Yes. A great question. Yes, if a student applies early decision and the financial aid package is not what they can afford, they can withdraw their acceptance. They should always have other applications in. When you file an early decision, you file all your other applications at the same time. You just hear the early decision one first. When they have to withdraw, they will be waiting to hear their other decisions. If nobody comes back with more money than the first one did, they cannot go back to the first school and say, well, now I'm in. When you're out, you're out. So that's number one. Number two, a lot of schools, especially private schools, will do what they call an early read. In the summer, if you take a transcript with the 3 years high school on it, and again, they don't care about the extracurricular. They're not looking at the other things. It's based on academics as your first core of getting in. So a college will look and see, is this student a possible candidate for us? And they'll tell you what to bring for financial information, the test, the income tax and stuff like that. And they will tell you what they think you will be able to get. And where they can't tell you exactly what the merit money might be, they can say with a GPA like this is the merit money that you are apt to get. They won't make guarantees in August, but they will give you an early indicator. And if anybody does have a recruited athlete, your recruited athlete can absolutely get an early read on money. You watch we all watch in the fall, the D1 football teams and all, and you're thinking all these kids are on full rides. They are not. The coaches are given a lump sum. And the football coaches have it the worst because they have the largest team, and they can't give everybody on that team a full ride. They've got to break that lump sum down into half rides, quarter rides, a tenth, depending where you sit in the totem pole. And so what happens is that you need to know from a coach in an admissions office and the financial aid office where you might fall for money. Because some schools may need your position more. I can remember years ago having a local quarterback's father sitting in my office going, he's the #1 quarterback. I go, yes, but there are 45,000 high schools in the United States with 45,000 #1 quarterbacks. There are not that many colleges that need him. So think along those lines. So hopefully that helps you.
I have a question.
Oh, Rose, okay. I was going to say, where's the... no one has a quarterback here tonight. But go ahead, Rose.
Can you talk about rolling admission,
Yeah.
early decision, and early action?
I was
That's
writing
a
that
great
note
question.
down. Good. Thank you.
It's a great question. Rose has been lucky enough to go through this and have successful kids that have survived all this, including the athlete. And what happens is rolling admissions means after August 1st, within so many weeks of applying, you will hear back from the school. And you're thinking, great, my kid's going to spend all summer working on applications. The Common App does not open before August 1, so you can't do anything. You can do the current Common App, and everything you put in that now will roll over to the new one that comes out in August. The problem is the high school guidance and college counseling offices are very, very busy, and it's often hard to get a transcript out of them on August 1st. So you have to kind of talk with your counselor and see who can help you do something. Those are rolling admissions. Pitt used to do more of a rolling admissions. That was one of our first schools in the state that would respond to kids. They've slowed that down a little bit. It's taken them a little bit longer to make decisions. Then you have the early decision, which this young lady asked about. Early decision means when I apply to you, I tell you, you are my first choice. If you accept me, I promise to come. And what you need to understand is that the admissions office is reading a much smaller number of applications, and the chances of getting in, if you're qualified, on an early decision application are, let's say, 5 out of about 7 or 8. Yet in regular admissions, the chances of getting in could be 5 out of 7 or 800. So chances getting in early decision, but it needs to be financially feasible and where your child wants to go. I will tell you that many, many colleges, highly selectives, are now taking a larger and larger percentage early decision because it's guaranteed bodies they know they're going to have, and it takes them out of the pool from their competitors down the road. So that's early decision. You can only do one early decision at a time. Should you not get into your early decision school and have a second school you're in love with, you can have that application ready to go and get it. You will hear from the first school early enough to get the second one filed for their early decision, their second early decision deadline, if they have a second round of ED. Not all schools do. We also have something called early action. Any school that has an early action, a UVA, a lot of schools have it. They don't have an early decision always, but they'll have an early action. Georgetown, Boston College. If you have an early action, you apply early, you will hear early, but you are not bound to go. So you're getting somebody looking and reading your application with less tired eyes than when they're doing 100 apps a day and night. And you're going to hear from them, but you don't have to tell them till you can compare everything, including the financial aid packages.
Great. Yes. Yes, sir.
Are colleges and government programs still considering siblings attending college simultaneously, or is that now something in the past?
Okay, so the FAFSA does not, what happens with the FAFSA, all the information goes into this needs analysis and produces what's called an SAI, Student Aid Index. The number in college is not taken into consideration anymore. As of the FAFSA completion, they changed some things, and that's not taken into consideration. Schools that ask for that CSS profile may take it into consideration. Every school looks at that CSS profile information in a different way, so they may use it for their own institutional money. But for federal and our state program, we don't use it, unfortunately.
Other questions? This woman who keeps walking up, whoever she is. Rose, go ahead.
Francine, maybe about letters of recommendation. Does it matter who you get your letters of recommendation from, and is it helpful to have an alumni recommendation?
No to the latter part. unless they are on the Board of Trustees or have a bill, and I'm serious about this one, have a building named after them on campus. Alums love to write letters, and it could be the kid that grew up next door, and that's fine, and they know them, but they don't know them academically. So the teacher recommendations really are the two most important ones. There are many schools like Penn State that don't take recs. It's done on numbers. You've got the GPA we want, you've got as many honors as we want or AP as we want, and that's how they make decisions. They haven't taken recommendations for years. But if you're going to be, you think, and I say it that way about your major because 3/4 of students change their majors first semester, half will change it again before they graduate. If you have, if you think you're going to be a biology major, having a bio teacher who knows you and can really write about you, that's a good one to get. If you're going to be a music major, having the band director or the choral leader or somebody writing about what you can do with music, how you understand it, how you're a leader, stuff like that helps. And then the schools who do accept recommendations, many of them also will take a third non-academic one. It could be the person who leads your Boy Scout troop. It could be the person who is in charge of the debate team and maybe an academic person, but not somebody you've had in class. So writing about you from a different point of view than from your class point of view can be very interesting and helpful. So you never want to turn down when an alum says, I'll write you a letter, but in most regards, they can't do bupkis.
That's a term of art, butkus. Other questions? Okay. Shannon.
I know the staff are really asking a lot of questions tonight. I have a junior, so this is a real parent question. You talked a little bit about connecting with the reps, the admissions reps. Outside of letting them know that you're coming on campus or sending them an email, what are other ways to indicate that that student is really interested in that school without becoming really annoying?
Yeah, and the really annoying part is you don't want to be. You know, if you weren't able to connect because the rep might have been on vacation or something in the summer, after you've been on campus, write and say, here's what I saw on campus that I liked. Here's where I can see myself doing a lot on that campus. Let them know how you connected. But you can also, as I said, ask if they have any suggestions. You need to know that for those of you who have an athlete and you think you're going to talk to the coach in the summer, many coaches are not on campus in the summer. They're off running camps trying to make money. So unless you set up an appointment with a coach, don't be disappointed when you get there and they're nowhere. There'll be coaches around, athletic director will be around, but the coaches often won't be around. But asking, what else can I do? Here are where my interests lie. Will I be able to get into the nutrition lab? I know it's really good. Are there summer programs going on where I can see what the opportunities are? So choose what you think you're going to major in and tie that into what would you suggest when I'm on campus to do related to, and they love being able to make those suggestions.
How many applications are too many or too less? How many college applications that you can do that you consider too many or too less?
Oh, okay. So years ago it used to be 10 total, and that is absolutely out the window and not the case now. You want to have some reaches, some that you've got the grades, as the senator said, so does that mean you can get in? No. But academically, you know you qualify. You then want to come down half a step and do your middle group, the largest group of ones that you're a little bit above them, but they're still good competitive schools for you, whatever grades are good for you. And then you want some where you are going to be at the top of the pile. So an answer, a name specific is hard to say because sometimes you'll get parents that come in and go, well, he's looking at all of the Ivies, and then what are we going to look at? You can look at Cornell, and you could look at Yale. Those are two Ivies, or Columbia and Cornell. Those Ivies look physically nothing alike, and a city versus rural, parents just say it's an Ivy, so it must be good and I'm applying. It may not be good for your family. So if we have the parents playing into this with all the schools they want, you then need still a realistic letter for the student. And what we suggest that you do is have the student do all the realistic schools first, because then when they come to the Ivies, the kids are going to rebel and not do all the essays. So they're not going to do everything down the road. But you have a parent list, and then you have a realistic list.
Okay, any further questions? Beth?
Sorry, I have one. This is for Azaz. You had mentioned that you can get back money in a 529 if it had been invested for 15 years, I think you said?
That was for a Roth IRA
Okay.
rollover. Yeah.
So at what point, like let's say you have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old perhaps, and have not actually set up a 529 yet. When is it too late to set up a 529?
Well, it's never too late, because you can set up a. I might not look it, but I am 33. I can go there today and start up PA 529 today and go, you know what, maybe I should have gone to law school after all and learned from Elizabeth Warren like Senator Santarsiero did. Might be too late because I think she's a senator obviously now. But the point is that it's never too late to start a PA 529.
Thank you.
And thank you for including me on a question. I appreciate that.
No problem.
No worries about your age. I'm 33 also. Just to be. Other questions? Other questions? Yes.
College consulting companies, yay or nay?
If you look at one that has somebody involved who is credentialed. Anybody in this room, after listening to what we had to say, could go out tomorrow and hang up a shingle and say, I can do this. I heard about financial aid. I heard about college tips. I can do this. It's an unregulated field. So if you go to look at somebody, you want to know what state and national associations do they belong to, what conferences do they attend, because that's where you learn stuff. What campuses are they visiting? We live in an area that has a whole lot of schools. As parents, you want your kids right next door. We don't always get what we want, folks. So if your child thinks they're going to an SEC school, has that person been down to visit and seen any of those colleges? They want to go to Montana because they're an outdoors kid. Where has the person been and what have they done? Saying, I can get everything online. You can read and get everything online too. But by not attending conferences, dealing with colleagues online on a daily basis to learn stuff, you're not getting anything. So it depends what the family thinks they need, but buyer beware.
So, Francine, since my son has volunteered since the last time we saw each other and is now reading books at a book fair on my birthday in 2 days.
Is that on the book fest?
Yeah. There you go. Sometimes it feels like you can at least give them guidance on the admissions essay. Is there something to hone in a little bit more on the admission essay? Is it more about the student, what he or she is thinking, or are the schools looking for a connection that the student might have? What are a little more pieces that we can dig into on that?
And I hope he's keeping track of his hours. Okay, just double checking on that. Applications will ask what activity you've been involved in, how many weeks a month, how many months a year, and how many hours totally have you put in. So that's why I asked that. So what happens is, you heard me make reference a few minutes ago to the Common App opening up on August 1. And what happens is that there is a Common App essay. There's a choice of 6 different topics. Almost all kids go to choice of your choice, essay of your choice. And in that essay, that's not where they're going to do what you're talking about. That's the chance for the college to get to know them. And I was referencing caterpillars as I was leaving to come out tonight. One of my little neighbors, he's, I guess, 6, was on his way to the school bus stop to meet his sister, but he wanted to show me his 3 caterpillars. And I said, and what do they turn into? You know, once a teacher, always a teacher, I guess. And so what can the college learn about you? And I say to families, if you do not capture in the essay a reader's attention in the first 3 lines, I hate to tell you, they're not reading the whole essay. A student spends hours on an application, and most reps, admissions people, get to read 18 or 20 minutes total. That's a transcript. And if they don't know CB West, it's reading about the profile of CB West. It's reading test scores if they took them. It's reading extracurricular activities. It's reading all the stuff that the student has put in 18 to 20 minutes. So they skim. When they get to the essay, grab them or you're not going to have them. So you want them writing about something that could be different. I always say if the kid sitting next to you in English class could write that essay, you haven't written an essay about yourself. What have they learned about you that they don't know from reading your application? That's one part. Then many colleges, once you put in on the Common App, you filled everything in, you've done the essay, you put in the schools you want, and up pops Penn State or up pops Lafayette. Those colleges have the option of asking additional essay questions. One could be about the major, but we all on the college side know kids have no idea. They know what their parents have told them they're going to do, but the kids really don't know what they're going to do. So questions tend to be on something else. Why is this school for you? That's where the student from the visit or has to be on what they saw or has to be online, being able to say, I'm a national debate champion. I see that you've got a very competitive debate team. I'm involved with working with Special Olympics. I see that you have that. The student wants to answer the question, putting himself on that campus, so the college realizes he does know us. We're trying to get to know him. He does know us.
One more question.
She's not coming in early.
I know, clearly.
So if my student took the SAT twice and got a little bit better, should he or she take classes to get that score up again?
If they took it twice without any prep either done free online with Khan Academy. Khan Academy is a great place for kids. You've got a 4th grader that needs help with their science project, or you've got a high school student who needs help with their psychology project. Khan Academy is fabulous and I think still free. That's what they should use before they take anything. You don't walk in to take the driver's test without having read the manual. Same thing for an SAT, so they should have done some prep. If their scores have come in with that prep pretty close, they can, a student should never take an SAT or an ACT more than 3 times. You can put the money in, but you want to look and see how many of the schools your student is looking at that don't require scores. Is your money being well spent and their time being well spent on test prep if they could be out doing something else? So that's a family call. Not everybody does well on a test. And to take the time and the money, it might be better spent elsewhere.
Great. Any other questions from someone who is not on my staff? Seriously, we'll open it up to the staff too, if you guys want to ask. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, how are you, Senator?
Yeah.
I'm Mark Fetter. I'm a local resident. I was a college professor and administrator for a long time, and I want to say that I think all the colleges and universities should be open to any student that's in the state. Unfortunately, we have this thing called testing of the colleges, and sometimes it's unfair because there's hundreds of applications. But I just want to say, me personally, I'm single, I have no children, and I was a college professor, college school administrator, I did it all, okay? So anyhow, sometimes the families feel it's better to have the students stay close to home. And I just wanted to say, having been on both sides, that I believe it is better for the student to stay close at home. And it may be a little bit unfair, but maybe not. I mean, the students have to apply to universities, so the application process can be really good if this young person gets help with their application. Because I got to just say, Pennsylvania's got a ton of fine cheap universities. Philadelphia is practically right around the corner. For a young person to go so far away from home in this area is really not necessary because we have a lot of good universities and schools that are right in this area. Once again, my name is Mark Fetter. I'm a local resident, and I'm an ex-college teacher, professor, and administrator. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you. All right, let me just wrap it up, first of all, by thanking Francine, Fran, and Azaz, and of course, my friend and colleague Tim Brennan for participating tonight, all of you for being here. I just want to leave you with the following thoughts. I am a father of three, former teacher as well. In fact, our youngest, John, is going to be graduating from college next Friday. A week from tomorrow. So our journey in this will be coming to a close, although he's going to start a graduate program right away, so maybe not. But I tell you that because, I remember when we embarked on this with our daughter Nancy, our oldest, many years ago. It can be overwhelming. The college tours are wonderful. We talked about that, Jason and I, earlier tonight. It's a great time to spend with your children. But there's a lot of pressure on kids today on a whole host of things. And getting into college is not least among those. And so what I want to say is this. There is a school for everybody. And the key is something Francine alluded to before. And that is finding the place that's right for you and where you can succeed. So that whether your next step after that is a career or it's going on to grad school or whatever it might be, that's the really important thing. And I know sometimes, particularly as parents, we have this kind of view of, where our kids should be or, have expectations. And sometimes the kids have that and they put that pressure on themselves as well. I just want to say, try not to do that. And try also to be aware that they're putting pressure on themselves as well. And that at the end of the day, it's going to work out. Because we have a lot of great schools in this country and a lot of great places to go and be part of, whether it's local or whether it's somewhere else. All of that it's out there and in front of you. So keep that in mind. It's a tough process, but try to make it as light as possible. And you'll come through it at the end of the day just fine. So, and one other person I want to thank is the guy behind the camera, because he's had a long day here in Bucks County. Earlier today, he was down in Bristol with me and State Representative Tina Davis as we introduced legislation. So Ted, thank you for being here. And again, I want to thank Central Bucks School District and CB West for generously opening up this space for our event again tonight. Thank you and have a good night.